Do I have to be pre-qualified to look at houses? I've been asked that before, and the short answer to that is yes. It's really important to be pre-qualified before you start looking at houses for a variety of reasons. First, so that it establishes a budget for you as the buyer. It also is respectful to the sellers who are readying their properties. They're getting ready, cleaning and getting everything put together so that the tours can go well when people request tours of their property. And it would be quite disrespectful to them if someone weren't really a qualified buyer coming in to look at their properties, right? Because they have the expectation that anybody coming into the house is going to be someone who is of a serious nature looking to buy the property. Another thing to keep in mind is for myself, as your buyer's agent, I will need to execute a written agreement with you. We have to write up a written relationship disclosure document and either a limited service document or a buyer representation document. Now, those are two sort of very different things, but they will allow your buyer's agent to tour properties with you. The limited service form, I kind of equate that to dating versus getting married, right? So the limited service form is something that you utilize with your agent. There's no established agency with that agent when you utilize a limited services form. It's good for 3 days and it allows that agent to get you into houses, tour properties for a limited amount of time. A buyer representation form establishes a much lengthier relationship between you and your real estate professional. Now, as I was saying before about your pre qualification letter, it's so important when you're looking at houses, number one, to establish your budget. I don't think there's anything more frustrating for a buyer than when they're going out, they're looking at properties, they happen to fall in love with a property, and they don't even know for sure if they qualify for that property. It's always so disheartening to find out later that it's a property that's over your budget limit and you're not able to put in an offer on that property. The other frustrating part for that to consider is that, a lot of times people go out on Friday afternoon after work or Saturday morning or Sunday. They're touring properties with their real estate professionals and they find the house that they love. And in that time frame, of course, lenders are not often readily available to execute or provide qualification letters on the weekend. So you find the house of your dreams or the one that you want to put an offer in on, and you can't do that. You won't be able to do that without a lender letter. As a seller, looking from the other side of the coin, if an offer comes across the plate, you want to make sure that that offer has already been secured. There's a pre qualification letter. You know what you're dealing with the buyer that's on the table. A seller wants to know if it's an FHA loan, a conventional loan, RD, rural development loan, VA loan, FHA, whatever the case might be, physician's loan, or if it's an all cash purchase. Those offers matter to the seller so that they can make the appropriate decision of what offer they will choose. And when you have your pre qualification letter in hand, it saves a lot of time. The seller then is aware of your qualifications, you know what you qualify for, and so does your real estate professional. It also shows the sellers that you're serious about purchasing a property. So, if you're going to look at properties, and to be fair, most sellers nowadays do require that anybody entering the home, any agent making an appointment with their client, has to do so with a qualified buyer. So many sellers stipulate that nowadays just because they spend all the time and effort to get that house ready. They clean it up, they organize it. They're trying to showcase that home to the very best of that home's potential so that hopefully they'll get an offer on that property. If that buyer isn't qualified, they come look at the house on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. And me as the buyer agent, if I have to call up the seller's agent and say, we really love the property, my buyer's super excited about putting forth an offer, but unfortunately my buyer's not qualified yet, we're not going to be able to speak to a lender until Monday. Please let me know if something comes up. Number one, your real estate professional should be guarding you against doing something like that. You really, really, really need to be qualified before you start looking at houses to avoid that in a nutshell. You need to do that out of respect for the seller and for your real estate professional. Um, when that offer comes across the table, the seller is very well aware that you're pre qualified and ready to go. It also strengthens your offer. You know, if the seller knows that you've already done your due diligence, you're ready, you're pre qualified, you're ready to go, they know that they have a more serious buyer on the plate. Also, as a buyer, getting pre qualified beforehand will also expose any financial issues or weaknesses that you might have. I have been in this business since 2003. And I can tell you that there's been buyers sometimes that they go to pre qualify themselves and a financial issue comes up on their credit report that they had forgotten totally about, or that they didn't even know existed, or it might be an issue that's not even their issue and they have to rectify and remedy their credit report. So sometimes those things can take time to utilize those options to fix what needs to be fixed, or in some conditions, pay down debt, increase your FICO scores. There's sometimes work that we have to do or that buyers have to do to get ready to purchase a home. And for myself, as your real estate professional, I can walk you through a lot of that to help you and to guide you in that process. I've worked with many buyers that it took them a year, maybe even more, to get their offer on the table to be ready to buy a property. So it's always just the best idea, honestly, to just pre qualify, to know what you're up against, just in case there might be some financial issues that you have to take care of. The other thing to consider is utilizing a local lender. I cannot express this enough how important it is or how valuable it is to utilize a local lender. When your offer goes across the table with a local lender, the seller sees maybe even someone that they recognize or a lending institution that they recognize, there's a bit of confidence or security in that the seller knows, you know, this lending company is right here in town. For me as a buyer's agent, if I'm working with a lender that's right here in town, the advantage is that I can walk right into that lender's office. I can sit across the desk from them and I can help my buyer to the best of my ability to get that contract across the table and to closing day to the very best of my ability. So when you're using a local lender, it sets a seller at ease to a certain extent, and it also sets your buying agent at ease to a great extent as well, because we can better help you. Now, there's a number of online lending opportunities. That's not to speak ill of them in any capacity, but in those situations, you tend to become a little bit more of a number rather than a person on the other side of a loan. So, anytime I've been involved in a transaction where they utilized an online lender, it just felt a little less personal. You know, they didn't really advocate as well for my buyers. They weren't as vested in trying to make sure that that buyer's transaction got across the table. My buyers ended up feeling more like a number, and they weren't sure, you know, whether or not they were going to make it across the plate or not. So, in short, there's a variety of reasons that it's super beneficial to get that pre qualification letter for the respect of the seller that's getting their property ready for you so that you can tour the property and enjoy the property. It's out of respect for your real estate professional like me that when we're taking you to tour homes, we know that you're qualified, we know that you're ready to go. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of sellers these days that simply request that up front. You know, don't book a tour, don't schedule a showing unless you have a qualified buyer. So those are stipulations that we as real estate professionals, we see them often, most of the time. And the biggest part, the biggest element in this whole scenario is you as a buyer. It saves you time, it saves you heartbreak, it saves you just knowing what your budget is and how to proceed with purchasing that home of your dreams. So, as your real estate professional, always get pre qualified, be ready to put an offer across the table, put as much strength into that offer as you can, know where you stand in that contract, and trust the advice of your real estate professional. Many of us have been in this business for a strong number of years, and our expertise help us in that quite frequently. So uh, if you have any other questions or if you need my help in any way, please feel free to reach out. I'm Rochelle Houghton, Roan Homes at Real Broker.